Hello, my name is Romano, and the people know me in Houston as Dr. ROCKIT, from a band that I had, started about 1979, and just represented for Houston for about 15 years. And we still get together once in a while. So I still love to play. I own a recording studio, and I've had my own recording studio in the Heights here, not far from the Art Car Museum for the last 21 or 22 years, something like that. And so I service musicians all the time, and a lot of them are artists. And I think I started making art and realizing I had a gift for art about the same time I started playing. I think I was around 10. And I'd always liked to mess with clay and draw and that kind of stuff, but it was one of those deals. So I just been painting all my life as my own person, and somewhere along the line I got educated at the University of St. Thomas and have a degree in art history, but I've just been painting by myself for years. So this is one of my pieces that is in the musicians who also paint or are artists as well, here at the Art Car Museum in Houston, and it was curated by Melissa Noble, who is this film is courtesy of as well. And this is a painting this is one of the bigger things that I've done, and I'm going to try to do some big stuff, but I like working kind of small because I love to define all my stuff as landscapes. It's abstract, organic stuff that grows out of just things suggesting themselves. Sometimes I'll start off with the drawing and fill it in, but this is sort of a beach scene, and it's sort of a celebratory thing where there's an urn here with offerings for something, and it's sort of a gay time having. You can see that the sky is kind of the sky, and there's maybe some mountains, or maybe those are temples or something. And on the other side of this is, don't know what all this is, it's just stuff. And then as you come over here, it kind of takes on a different shape, and we sort of look off into space here, and you can see the water and these strange things floating on the water. And there's a little vessel of some kind, and there's a little sailboat there. And it's sort of like a painting on the beach almost. And there's some structure here. I just don't this is intentionally an urn with gifts in it, awaiting something, which is a big theme in a lot of my work. And but the rest of it is just me having fun and playing with colors, just totally indulging myself in my just whim, my associative whim. So balance becomes important, and color becomes important. Shape becomes important to define space, and anything that you can make of it is what it is. But I see a little building back there, and maybe some other kind of structure over in this corner. A lot of this is just fantasy vegetation and just things that are going on in my head that just come out.
What's this painting called?
This is called Grand Jack, Texas, and it's named after the Grand Jatte, which was a painting by the famous pointillist Seurat. And this is sort of a similar scene. That's a scene of people at a lake having a picnic and having fun, and it's very stiff and oriented and all made out of little bitty dots of different colors. And I'm not a pointillist by any stretch, but I do get into little bitty dots and circles, and so that's kind of that's the substance of my technique, I think.
Is that like you're compulsive?
Yeah, it can get pretty bad sometimes. This one I really only worked on a couple of days, and in spite of myself, in spite of it being a really nice painting, I probably would have not quite put it in there in this show, but somebody with more power than me put it in there, so I'm grateful to them. Thank you.
And we're grateful too, because it's been a hit.
Well, cool. I'm glad to hear that, Melissa. This other painting sort of got in here by accident, because they sort of accidentally had a space on the wall after the opening. And this painting is much more typical of my work, where you'll see it's obviously a landscape, some kind of mountains with the sky up there. And there's water here. You can see water, and the water's kind of back in there somewhere. There's some vegetation in the foreground. And then there's this other thing right here that's coming up out of the water that you have to look at, but it has real different kind of dots and circles. And what it is, it's a great big fish surfacing up out of this water and beaching itself on the land where all these flowers and vegetation are.
Oh, and there's the eye.
This is his eye, this is one eye, and this is sort of from his mouth and the sort of feelers like a catfish, and here's his back like this, and his tail, and this is his belly, and you can see there are all the scales. I don't know, their scales are all painted with gold, and then little colors surrounding colors to create hopefully a depth of this being a separate object that has a totally different texture coming into this painting. And it describes a true story that happened to my brother and I, who went to this little bitty national park. Maybe it was, 1970 or something. And it was near Huntsville. It was called Walker Lake. And we went there, and it was a very tiny little place. It was barely a bridge crossing in this road, but it was also a little lake under there, and people would camp, and it was a very small place, and we would have been over back this way camping, and this was the edge of the water, and I walked out and grabbed my fishing pole out of the trunk and threw my line in the water, and I caught some kind of prehistoric monster that was this big. And to this day, everybody was afraid to eat it. We brought it home. We asked everyone at the park that day what it was, and nobody could figure it out. And I feel guilty to this day that maybe I killed the creature from the Black Lagoon or something like that. I hope not. But that's what this is all about. It's a memory just turned into whatever comes out of me at any given time. And it's the way I love to work. And it's often I'll work from a photograph to begin with, and then try to turn that into something more expressive with a little abstract juice here and there. And I love to coat my paintings, and after they're done, I work only in acrylics because I just can't afford to do the other stuff or something. I just can't do it in my house and have my whole house all smelling like turpentine. So someday I'll get a real studio, and I'd love to paint in oils, which I did at first, but they were this big. So these are two fairly large works of mine. I have another piece in the show, which is in the gallery, the tribute gallery to Steve Smitty Smits, who was the drummer for Dr. ROCKIT, my band, who died last November. And there's a whole gallery of this show dedicated to him, and one of my pieces about him is in
Well,
that
let's
show.
go in there.
Okay.